forward to getting to visit with you here through electronics, and it's a wonderful thing. And we're going to talk about the basics of what makes Youngevity different than all other companies out there when it comes to health. And of course, we like to leverage our time through your eyes and through your efforts. And so it's very, very exciting to be able to communicate with you. And we will, cover the waterfront. We're going to cover a lot of stuff here.
Yep.
So this is a magnificent opportunity to actually share, of course, our basic concepts. I'm assuming that there's percentages of people who've been with us for some time and percentages of people who are looking at us, and then there's a percentage of people who've been with us a short time. So I'm going to communicate knowing that sort of ratio. And basically, the whole idea is to get the word out there to every human being on Earth that there are no genetic diseases. I know that freaks everybody out. There are no genetic diseases. There are no genetically transmitted birth defects, with the exception of infectious diseases and fetal alcohol syndrome, those sorts of things, and some prescription drugs and few pollutants. 99% of all birth defects are caused by nutritional deficiencies of the embryo, and most of them are all 100% preventable. And there's some few that are fixable after the baby's born, but most of them, for instance, like a cleft palate, you may need to do surgery after the baby's born because you can't reverse it with nutrients. You can prevent cleft palate with nutrients. And all vertebrates, whether you're a fish or a turtle or a porpoise or a human being or a flamingo or a giraffe or a wallaby or a kiwi, doesn't matter. All vertebrates, you get deficient with the same nutrients during pregnancy, you get the same birth defects. And then after you're born and you're living the wonderful life as a child or an adult, all vertebrates, again, get the same deficiency, get the same diseases. There are no genetically transmitted diseases, and this is called epigenetics. And I'm excited to say that we've been a leading force in replacing with the failed theory of genetics with epigenetics, which means we're in better control. Historically, doctors have said, look, you have terrible genes, you have 5 generations of birth defects, and especially don't have kids. Well, that's all nonsense. If everybody gets the 90 essential nutrients, 60 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 minerals, 3 fatty acids, we can eliminate, again, all birth defects. We can eliminate all diseases that are considered things like pre-existing conditions, type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, obesity, arthritis, Alzheimer's disease, heart disease of all kinds, liver cirrhosis, all these sorts of things are totally preventable. And most of them are reversible after you get them just by simple changing the diet and also taking the 90 essential nutrients. The failure came because plants only require 3 elements from the soil to make good seeds from the next generation. All vertebrates require 60 nutrients from the soil. Okay, the elements from the soil, minerals primarily. And it's one of those things where the only way you're going to guarantee a perfect development of a child is to supplement with all 90 essential nutrients, including all 60 from elements from the soil, leaving nothing to chance. And we can eliminate these diseases, reverse these diseases, make things better for everybody. And the only people who are going to complain are the medical system. And although there's lots of nice people in the medical system all over the world, the systems have failed us because they relied on failed information, false information of genetics and pre-existing conditions like autoimmune things your body's attacking itself. It's all nonsense, all nonsense. And that gives everybody a lot of hope out there and makes things a lot better. So that what I'm going to do is leave you throw some questions at me because I can babble on all night about these sorts of things and I may be going in the wrong direction. So I'm going to flip it back to you and let you ask me some questions and get me started in the direction you want me to go, okay?
Okay. We've got one asking specifically, how can we help someone after they've had knee replacement and still experiencing pain, primarily on the inner side of the knee?
Okay. Well, when you've had a knee replacement, you have to make sure that you're maintaining the bones so that the bones grip the replacement. If you're not maintaining the bones, what happens is all cells in your body go away. Nothing lives forever. Your red blood cells live 120 days. Bone cells, not the minerals, but the bone cells, live for maybe a couple of months. Same way with liver cells, live for a couple of months and they die, and then you replace them with new ones. Well, the same thing is true with bones. And I like to tell people, when you have a knee replacement or a hip replacement, your bones are going to look at that the same way that a tree looks at a fence wire that's been nailed to the tree. The bark will grow over that wire and trying to sort of protect the tree from the irritation of the wire. The same thing is true. You want your bones to overgrow that knee replacement so that you hold the spikes in place so they don't wallow around in there. If you're not constantly rebuilding your bones, the bones go away. That space that the artificial knee, the prosthesis, that spike is down in a hole. That hole gets bigger and bigger and bigger and begins to wallow around, and it's very painful. So we call the Healthy Bone and Joint Pack. I like to use it to one healthy bone and joint pack for 100 pounds of body weight. And then make sure I throw in the vitamin D3 added to that extra, and also the MSM from our Free Life division. And that's going to give the bones everything it needs to grow around that prosthesis and keep it immobile so it doesn't wallow around in a hole that gets bigger and bigger and bigger. That's where the pain comes in.
Okay. So, Dr. Wallach, with the huge increase in cancer throughout the world, we've got people coming to Longevity who are seeking to turn around their health after chemo, radiation, multiple medications. Some of these people, when they get on the Healthy Start Pack, can get quite chronic nausea. What would you recommend for these people? It's almost like they're just so toxified by all of the treatments they've had.
Yes, we're exactly right. And what I like to do for people with a history of cancer and chemotherapy and radiation is start them out on the biggest hammer we have in our toolbox, which we call the Healthy Brain and Heart Pack. Okay, and some of our antioxidants, such as Z-Radical, and also our beta-glucan 500, and also the BTT 2.0 tablets, which gives you, 4 of those tablets will give you 160,000 ORAC points, which are measurements of antioxidants per day. And so that's kind of the direction I like to go. And also, you have to stop the ongoing inflammation, and which means the things got them into trouble to begin with. They have to give up the fried foods, the processed meats, oils, olive oil, coconut oil, margarines, mayonnaise, salad dressings, cooking oils. They got to give up gluten so they can maximize the absorption of the nutrients. And a lot of people, they try and be tough, and they say, well, I'll just take it all at once. And so I like them to take their calculated dose and divide it up into 4 quarter doses, okay, so divide it up into fourths, and take a quarter at breakfast, a quarter at lunch, a quarter at dinner time, and a quarter at bedtime. And so the dosage coming in is lower, and that way you're less likely to cause a negative reaction.
Okay, great. Okay, we've got questions piling in here. Diastasis recti, somebody was wondering what you'd suggest for that.
Okay, would you repeat that, please?
Diastasis, and second word recti.
Hi, sorry, I'll just jump in. It's the separation of the abdominal wall, like the lining separation, generally after pregnancy.
Okay, so the lining of the abdominal wall is separated from the muscle. Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
Well, again, these sorts of things have to do with the lack of nutrients required to hold them together. And so we're talking about connective tissue here between the muscle and the lining of the abdominal cavity. Okay, and so again, I would go with the biggest hammer in the toolbox, one Healthy Brain and Heart Pack for 100 pounds of body weight, and throw in the MSM, 3 of those twice a day, which is 1 bottle a month for 100 pounds of body weight. And the also the glucogel, which supports maintenance repair of cartilage and ligaments and tendons and connective tissue, which this is. And these are the sorts of raw materials you want to be giving this individual. Also, absorption means everything. That old adage, you are what you eat, is not true. You are what you absorb. And so it's imperative, again, to give up all the fried foods, the processed meats, deli slices, sandwich meat, sausage, ham, bacon, bologna, salami, that kind of stuff. Give up the oils and give up gluten, wheat, bread, and oats. There's no such thing as a good gluten. Wheat, bread, and oats. A lot of people will say, well, I can get gluten-free oats. No. A rose by any other name is still a rose. And when you have gluten coming from oats, it's called gliadin. And just because it's called gliadin doesn't mean it doesn't give you the negative stuff of gluten. And what happens is when people eat gluten, it causes serious damage to the lining of the small intestine and the colon, significantly reducing the percentage of absorption. And so you can be supplementing heavily, and it's all coming out into the toilet and not absorbing. And so it's imperative. You have to be obsessive about avoiding the bad stuff, the fried foods, the processed meats, the oils, and the glutens, and then take your 90, 60 minerals, 16 vitamins, 5 acids, 3 fatty acids. When you have a connective tissue problem like this, you want to make sure you're getting more glucogel, more MSM, and these contain the various nutrients necessary to support healthy maintenance, repair of connective tissue. We're talking everything from lupus and sarcoidosis, fibromyalgia. They're all kind of related.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we've got another person asking, we seem to be having a lot of people saying they're non-methylators and can't absorb certain nutrients. Why are so many people classified now as having this situation?
Because doctors make a living by telling you you're a non-methylator and you need to come to me and let me treat you. Okay, so it's a doctor thing. It's not a real thing. So if you give the liver, see, the liver methylates stuff. And so when you have difficulty, which I don't believe in most cases is true, but let's say you have difficulty in methylating folic acid, okay? And what you do is you make the liver happy and it'll do it for you because the methyl groups are made by the liver, okay? And so we're talking about, again, the heavy tool in the toolbox, Healthy Brain and Heart Pack, was good for the brain and the heart, it's good for the liver, particularly the trace minerals that are in that program. And so it's one Healthy Brain and Heart Pack for 100 pounds of body weight. And stay away from all the bad stuff, the fried foods, the processed meats, the oils, and the glutens. The liver will do its job and methylate the folate, and so there won't be any problems.
Great, thank you. What would you suggest for someone diagnosed with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy? The doctors want to give statins and other drugs and implant defibrillator.
Okay, well, the doctor should be put in jail when they're thinking in those terms. Okay, because I've done more autopsies on human beings with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy heart disease than anybody else on earth. I wrote one paper on 1,700 autopsies on kids under the age of 10 from Qishan province, China. And hypertrophic cardiomyopathy heart disease is caused by deficiency of a single nutrient. You can tell from a hair analysis whether you're deficient in that nutrient or not. But if you have diagnosed hypertrophic cardiomyopathy heart disease, and you can tell from an electrocardiogram and, you know, a good physical, you can tell. But do the hair analysis, and it'll tell you just how far down you are in deficiency of that nutrient. It's a trace mineral. I don't want to say what it is because they need to take the entire Healthy Brain and Heart Pack, 1 per 100 pounds of body weight, because of all the cofactors. If I tell them which trace mineral it is, everybody runs out to the store and buys that trace mineral, and a percentage won't be successful because they're missing. They're assuming they have all the other cofactors, which you can't. And so it's imperative to take everything, a little bit of extra of that stuff. And so there's, again, get rid of all the bad stuff, the fried foods, the processed meats, the oils, the glutens, 1 Healthy Brain and Heart Pack for 100 pounds of body weight, and hypertrophic cardiomyopathy heart disease will go away. If you're a little kid and under 3 months of age, it can be called crib death or SID, sudden infant death syndrome. People don't die because they get tangled up in blankets or they sleep on their bellies and suffocate. That's nonsense. They die of hypertrophic cardiomyopathy heart disease. young athletes, 6 years old, 8 years old, and they're in the Pee-wee leagues and everything, where these kids are in grade school or in high school and they're dying of heart attacks, training and practice or participating in an event. It's all caused by an instantaneous heart death because of that deficiency. So you take the 90 essential nutrients at the beginning of the season before you start training, and nobody will die of hypertrophic cardiomyopathy heart disease.
Great, thank you. On the point of testing, we did have one person question, is it necessary to do tests like hair tests, blood, saliva, pH, before we start longevity or on our progress to health?
It's not necessary to do that, but when people have emotional problems and they've got PTSD and they've got depression and they have those sorts of things, ADD, ADHD, autism, Asperger's disease, I like to do a hair analysis to show them that they're missing these particular nutrients, which are causing the behavioral problems. Also, when you have gluten intolerance, all of the minerals will be below the bottom line on the graph because of malabsorption. So that's a quick way to show them, oh, look, you definitely got a gluten problem here because all your minerals are below the line, because they should be all different levels when it comes to amounts of each of the 25 to 30, depending on what test you use, minerals in the hair analysis. But if they're all below the bottom line on the graph, that means you really have a serious gluten problem and your absorption is extremely low. And so that's useful information. And so you don't have to do that. Of course, I ask enough questions, and if you listen to the CDs and the DVDs and read the books and everything, you know what questions to ask. Like before we began talking here, I did put on a meeting in a little suburb of LA, had a couple hundred people, and I knew that the person had a gluten problem because they had like 8 different nutritional deficiency diseases. And so they didn't have asthma when they were a kid. But I said, did you have brothers and sisters? Yeah. Any of them have asthma? Well, yeah. Well, one of my brothers had asthma. What about bowel problems? Yeah. Well, one of them had his gallbladder taken out and had part of his colon removed. Well, there you go. Those are all signals that their whole family's got a gluten problem. So you need to get your whole family off of gluten. You'll add 50 years to their life and save them an enormous amount of unnecessary misery by getting them off of gluten, getting them on the 90. And I didn't need a test, because once you do this over and over and over and over, you know what questions to ask because you know what you're looking for.
Great. Okay. We've got a lady saying that she's got a son with cystic fibrosis and wants to know why the treatment that you've come up with hasn't been included in modern day treatment of cystic fibrosis, and how can she help her son by convincing his medical team to listen to your info?
Okay, well, first of all, it's a great question. I appreciate that. And of course, I'd be happy to do 3 ways with the doctors if they're remotely interested in talking with me. There's no doubt about it that cystic fibrosis is a nutritional deficiency of the embryo or a nutritional deficiency of the relatively newborn child, a couple months of age. And they find that most kids with cystic fibrosis are born to women who come from certain areas that are low in selenium. I'll give you that one. It's low in selenium. Or they're being fed an infant formula that has no selenium in it because doctors think it's poisonous. I mean, it's irrational thinking, but that's how they think. And when I made the discovery, it was because people were messing around with the monkey pellets because they had rough, dry hair, and they started putting lots of oil to be soaking on the monkey pellets, which required more selenium to make up that difference because there was so much oil and oxidation going on in the pellets. And it was a beautiful thing because they had saved, every month they would take a blood sample from the mother and father for 6 years and saved it in the freezer. So when I ran into that first baby that died and diagnosed with cystic fibrosis, had it confirmed by experts in it, and then when I told them it was not a human, they were all excited. So, oh, well, now we've got an animal model. And so I said, okay, and I got permission to do biopsies on the other 24 babies in the colony, and they all had cystic fibrosis. None of them were related because they all had different mothers and fathers. And so it was very obvious it was an environmental problem. I went and I looked, and I'd already done 20,000 autopsies by the time I got to that point. So I went and looked, and sure enough, every one of those babies and every one of the mothers and fathers, their selenium level was way, 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 way low. In some cases, just not there at all. Got it all documented, written up for publication. Oh man, I'm going to get a Nobel Prize for this one. And they fired me because they said, Wallach, you must be sniffing glue because everybody knows it's a genetic disease. So why don't you challenge me? And I have my data here. I'll give you my data based on your challenges. And we can work together to save these kids. Now we'd be laughed out of the university. And so that's when I went back to school after they fired me to become a physician so I could treat these kids myself. Now, when people follow the doctor's instructions, the average lifespan of these kids with cystic fibrosis is 12 years of age. The ones who follow my instructions, the average lifespan of these kids is 75.
Amazing. Okay, we've got a question. How can we help people who've been affected psychologically from prescription and social drugs?
Okay. And of course, many of the side effects, of course, in social and prescription drugs are things like depression and manic depression and suicidal behavior, domestic violence, mass murderers and serial killers, school shooters. These are all side effects of many of these drugs. And so again, I like to do hair analysis on these folks because they're put on these drugs usually because they're deficient in one particular nutrient. And it goes back to the days of Joan of Arc. She was hearing voices and all that kind of stuff, and she went to Lourdes, France, and got in the hot springs water at Lourdes, France, sat in and soaked herself and drank it, and she was cured in a couple of weeks because she was getting that element that was missing in her diet, and she became a totally different person. And of course, it's very common. There's an enormous amount of research done with hair analysis on people who perpetrated domestic violence and perpetrated mass murders, perpetrated serial killers, perpetrated self-destruction through suicide and so forth, or they were just, again, domestic violence and perpetrated domestic violence against their spouses and their kids, whether they're a woman or a man. And you see these many times. In fact, just in England, just a couple of days ago, there was a woman who was arrested because they accused her of killing 17 newborn babies in the hospital. You may have read that from Southampton or something like that. She worked at the hospital there. I guarantee you, if they were to do a hair analysis on her, she would be deficient in that mineral, okay? And so these behaviors are all tied to one deficiency. And of course, we have that mineral in our minerals. And so that's why I'm such a nice guy, because I drink a lot of those minerals and I take the capsules form. So one capsule of these minerals equals 1 liquid ounce of the minerals. So I take in the equivalent of about maybe 4 or 5 ounces a day of these minerals. And that one trace mineral is in there that prevents these behaviors. And so, again, you can find out in the hair analysis or just give the nutrients and all these behaviors go away.
Okay, great. So another lady is asking, her father has been given blood clot medication due to a mini stroke. He's also got high blood pressure and arthritis. She's recommended tangy tangerine, but concerned it might interfere with the blood clot medication. Could you enlighten us on that?
Okay. Well, the bone marrow requires a lot of nutrition to make platelets, which help the blood clot, right? To help the blood clot properly, like it's supposed to if you're bleeding. If you get abnormal blood clots and you get a coronary thrombosis, you get a blood clot in the coronary artery, you get a thrombotic stroke, you get a blood clot in the brain, or pulmonary embolism, you get a blood clot in the lung, or you get deep vein thrombosis, you get a blood clot in the leg vein, and so forth. These are caused by deficiency of a single nutrient. Those types of blood clots are caused by deficiency of a single nutrient. And I always find it fascinating when doctors do surgery on people, they say, don't take any of those nutrients because you might bleed to death, surgery. Well, not really, not if you're taking the proper dosage. You're going to have normal blood clotting times and so forth. And these nutrients that prevent and actually can dissolve the blood clots. We actually have one, it's called Ultimate Niacin Plus. It's actually a niacin product where the niacin is time release and non-flush, so it doesn't cause red, itchy, heated up flushing skin when people take it. But the plus part is an enzyme called nattokinase, which dissolves blood clots. And for the most part, when you have a pathological blood clot in the brain causing a stroke, or in the coronary artery causing a coronary thrombosis, heart attack, or pulmonary embolism, or deep vein thrombosis, you want that enzyme, nattokinase, to dissolve the blood clots. Okay? And so you have to use judgment when to use these various things, but it's not that difficult. Okay,
great. We've got somebody that has stage 1B G2 uterine endometrioid adenocarcinoma, which has been treated by laparoscopic hysterectomy. What would you do for that person?
Okay, well, any cancer, and what I'm going to share with you, it would be true for any cancer, okay, whether it's stage 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, or if it's endometrial cancer or testicular cancer or lung cancer. The approach is the same. Excuse me. It's a mistake to kind of go after the cancer itself. Your best friend when you have any type of malignancy, any type of cancer, is your own immune system. And chemotherapy will kill cancer cells, no doubt about it, but it also kills all the good cells. When people have been given chemotherapy for a year, multiple treatments over a year's period of time, invariably 98% of the time, the cause of death is not the cancer, but the treatment, because it killed all the healthy cells, including all the defensive cells in your immune system. So I like to support the immune system. We have many, many great products in the longevity system, including Z-Radical, beta-glucan 500, beta-glucan 300, I-26, the BTT 2.0 tablets, again, which, I mean, are crazy, the amount of ORAC points, oxygen radical absorption capacity, which is a measurement of how many free radicals are neutralized by the antioxidant power of that substance. And so I like to go all out when somebody has any form of cancer. I give them like 5 or 6 of these immune support products in addition to the 90 essential nutrients, because their organs, their liver and their heart and their lungs and their kidneys and all their tissues and digestive systems and pancreas and so on, all need to function properly just to stay alive and make good cells replace the ones that are dying. But also, you need to support your own immune system, so your own immune system will attack the cancer, and your own immune system will not eat you, but your own immune system will eat the cancer. That's why we choose to go that route.
Great. Okay. We've got a lady whose doctor is refusing to prescribe minocycline for her rheumatoid arthritis. Any views on that? Should she just keep shopping around the doctors?
Yeah, I'd fire that doctor and shop around. Yeah, shop around. Go to the university, medical schools, and so forth. And I'll be happy to talk with those doctors. I deal with rheumatoid arthritis all the time, people who've been disfigured for 23 years, and we get them on the minocycline, and for 6 weeks, we get them on the Healthy Bone and Joint Pack, the extra MSM and vitamin D3, and we rebuild the joints. And it's one of those miracles where the body has a capacity to rebuild itself, given the right raw materials. But rheumatoid arthritis is 2 pieces. It's bone-to-bone arthritis, and then it's secondarily infected with the mycoplasma bug, which is easily killed by the minocycline antibiotic. And so you have to do both. But it's easily reversed, and we're bound to find some doctor in Australia who's willing to do it. Say, well, I don't believe it, but it's not going to hurt the person, so let's give it a shot, see how it works. And so you're looking for that sort of person. Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Wallach, with the Healthy Start Pack, like most of us here are distributors, and we get our people onto the 90 for life, and then we get, a lot that just don't seem to get the message that it is for life. And, how would you help us to explain to people that this is not just a try it and see, this is something that we actually need for the rest of our life?
Yes, well, you're very, very astute, and I'm very proud of you. You're exactly correct. And this is a universal problem. It's not just in Australia. We have the same problem here in America. That's why our motto became 90 for life. You need oxygen for life. You need water for life. You need the 90 essential nutrients for life. And when I used to get terribly frustrated because people who are normally intelligent when it comes to common sense would say things like, well, after I get better, do I still have to keep taking the stuff? Well, yeah, because your cells die all the time, and you have to give your stem cells the raw materials. This is epigenetics. You got to give your stem cells the raw materials to make the replacement cells. You have the best blueprint in the world, but if you don't have carpenters and bricklayers and roofers and brick and mortar and wood and shingles, the best blueprint in the world is not going to do you any good. Same way, you can have the best genes in the world, but if you don't have all the raw materials and the tools and the tradesmen to put everything together, you're not going to get that house built. And so, so I used to say, I wonder what Noah did when he was frustrated. What did Noah do in the days of the Bible? I mean, did he go out and have a glass of wine or a good Australian beer? I mean, what did he do?
Yeah. So we see that people, when they are on the Healthy Start Pack, we get reports where people say they feel calmer, and we observe that their behaviour seems to get more on track with, you know, what they came here to do. They seem to, their whole life starts to shift. And I reasoned this through and thought, I think I've heard you say that a lot of people at a cellular level are in malnutrition. So the corresponding mental state of someone in malnutrition would be fear, fight or flight, anxiety, and survival mode. So they're hardly living the life they came to live. And yet, you know, here we are presenting complete nutrition and giving the opportunity to reconnect with living a full life, living the life they were meant to live.
Well, you're exactly right. And again, trying to educate somebody who's in their 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s is kind of at the back end of things. It's kind of like putting oil in your car after the engine burns up.
Yeah.
And so we want to do preventive maintenance. We need to begin to teach our families. And I tell people, look, you need to have a weekly meeting in your family. Well, they live in, you know, they're 1,000 miles away. Well, that's what we're doing here, right? Skype and Zoom and that sort of thing. And you need to have meetings every week. And for times there's due to have presents and birthdays and people who are getting engaged and people getting married and graduations and Christmas and all that kind of stuff. You want to give them the 90 Essential Nutrients with a CD, a DVD, or book or something, and have these weekly meetings. Everybody's not going to be on every one of them, but if you get 2/3 every time and you're educating people, so when the time comes, they're starting to take the 90 Essential Nutrients on a regular basis. So I'm pretty healthy, but I'll take the Healthy Start Pack. That's like putting the 6 quarts of oil in your car before the engine burns up. Preventive maintenance. And once we start working that way, we're going to have a better compliance because people will understand. But, I mean, we're dealing with groups of people who have been told by their doctors, oh, just eat well, you get everything you need, don't waste your time and money on vitamins and minerals. Well, those doctors should actually be put in jail because people die when they don't take vitamins and minerals. People will die, okay, from horrible diseases that are simple nutritional deficiencies. So it's not as simple as a difference in philosophy. This is a wrongful death situation, and you put about 1,000 doctors in jail in every country for saying stuff like that. Oh, just eat well, you don't need to take vitamins and minerals. Suddenly now all the other doctors say, oh, you better be taking your vitamins and minerals because they see the punishment that doctors are getting when they kill a patient by telling him, don't take your vitamins and minerals, just eat well. And so we're going to have to kind of come at this from 3 or 4 or 5 different directions before everybody complies.
Okay, great. Thank you. So we've got a person saying they have cardiolipid syndrome, which goes hand in hand with lupus. She has lupus markers in the blood with no symptomatic at the moment, and she's on warfarin for life. Can this be reversed?
Oh, absolutely. Lupus, fibromyalgia, sarcoidosis, these sorts of things are all the same disease, just different variations. The difference between sarcoidosis and lupus is you have more disease internal organs like liver and lungs and that sort of stuff. You have less of the internal organ damage when you have lupus. It's more connective tissue and the cartilage and ligaments and tendons and skin and so forth.
Yep. Okay. Alrighty. Now, autism. because we've got such an outbreak of autism around the world. This person's asking, what can we do about that?
Okay, well, first of all tissues, all cells, all organs, and all organ systems require all 90 essential nutrients, including the brain and the eyes. The brain requires all 90 essential nutrients, 60 minerals, 16 vitamins, 12 minerals, 3 fatty acids. If you're missing any one of these, you get horrible diseases, some of which are behavioral problems, some of which are fatal. And, you know, they go back to the beginning of time, in the days of sail, 1,000 years ago. Things like beriberi and pellagra, scurvy, these kinds of things are just simple nutritional deficiency diseases. And two that really affect the brain are beriberi and pellagra. Very simple nutritional deficiencies which would affect directly the brain. And of course, when you have Alzheimer's disease is actually a deficiency of cholesterol. It's a physician-caused disease. Alzheimer's disease is a physician-caused disease. It's a deficiency of cholesterol. And so to help people with these types of diseases, I have them take the Healthy Brain and Heart Pack. I have them eat 6 eggs twice a day per 100 pounds of body weight, get rid of all the bad things, fried foods, processed meats, oils, and glutens. And we take people, and I can tell you, if I may, a kind of a 3-minute story about a guy who was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, and the doctors put him on the medication for Alzheimer's disease. 3 years later, he goes into a coma. He was in a deepening and deepening and deepening coma for 8 years until there was not much left of his brain. And the doctors in the nursing home told the sister, look, there's your brother Ray McGregor is the guy's name. There's not much we can do for him now. Do you really want to keep him going here with IVs and G-tubes, or should we just pull the plug and it'll be the end? She said, well, give me 6 months. So she calls me, tells me the situation, and I said, well, we can give it a try here. You know, if we do what they say, your brother Ray will die in a couple of days. But if you do what I say, he's got a high probability of doing well. So, well, let's do what you say. It's okay. So, Healthy Brain and Heart Pack, 6 eggs twice a day for 100 pounds of body weight, and divide the dose of all the supplement program and the eggs and everything into 4 quarter doses. Give it to him through the G-tube, and call me every 2 weeks. Well, on the 5th day, she calls me. She's crying. She says, she couldn't compose herself. I said, well, tell me about your brother Ray. Why are you crying? Is he okay? And she says, well, I went into his room this morning and he wasn't in his room. I was going to give him to start his 5th day in a program. He's not in his room anymore. His suitcases, his clothes are gone. All his personal toiletries are gone. There's somebody else in his bed with a different chart, different person. So I go to the front desk and I say, where's my brother Ray? And the girl's front desk says, Ray? She says, yeah, Ray McGregor, my brother. She's, oh, that Ray. Well, he got up this morning. He didn't realize he'd been in a coma for 8 years. He thought he'd only been asleep one day. He shaved, got dressed in a 3-piece suit, went back to work at the bank. If you want to find him, he's at the bank right now. A true story.
What about autism? Is that related to digestion?
Well, it is. It's related to gluten intolerance, and the mother can't absorb stuff. The baby, if you're being breastfed, the baby is going to have terrible gut pain and be a colicky baby. And then once the baby gets older, we get the ones that are nonverbal. They're 10, 12, 15 years old. They're nonverbal. They're really a mess. And they're all diagnosed with Asperger's and that sort of stuff. And so we get them on the Healthy Brain and Heart Pack, 1 per 100 pounds of body weight. We get them on a gluten-free diet. And in 6 months' time, they're reading the Bible out loud and singing in the choir in the church, and they've grown 12 inches. We do this 1,000 times a year.
Okay. Dr. Wallach, we've got a girl here in Australia. She has 400,000 followers on her vegan Instagram profile. Now, this girl, as it turns out, we got her on Tangy Tangerine, not realising that it wasn't actually vegan. Her family had huge turnarounds in their health, amazing. Then we discovered about chondroitin sulfate. She's wondering, is there any possibility that you could get a vegan version of the Tangy? Because she so believes that this is what vegans need. It's that missing ingredient.
Oh, absolutely. Well, here's the deal. You can be a successful vegan, you can be a successful vegetarian, but you must supplement heavily. Okay? And of course, the MSM is the thing that they want to use instead of the glucogel, okay, because it's from plant material and ground up rocks as opposed to animal materials. Now, if they can bring themselves to eat eggs and be a vegan that eats only eggs, chicken eggs or turkey eggs or guinea eggs or duck eggs or whatever, throw eggs into the mix, they could be a perfectly healthy vegan just by adding eggs and adding the 90 essential nutrients, and it'll cover all those needs.
Yeah. But how would they go, with the tangy tangerine, because it's got the chondroitin sulfate, which is animal derived?
Yeah, well, we actually have a version without the chondroitin sulfate in there.
Okay. Which one is that?
Uh-huh.
The toddy.
Yeah, it would be the Total Toddy. Okay. We also have one. It's called Ultimate Classic. It's a liquid. Okay, it doesn't have that sort of stuff in there. It was way before the tangy tangerine.
Okay.
And we used to add Knox gelatin to it, from the grocery store.
Right. Okay.
Before we came up with BTT 2.0. But you can make a animal gluten-free version of the 90. But if they can throw in eggs, they won't get depression. They won't get all these mental problems that vegans get and vegetarians get, because they need cholesterol. They need fat. They need fat. There was an 8-country study which included Australia. They found that people that would have Parkinson's disease and MS and Lou Gehrig's disease and Huntington's disease, because they were drinking things like non-dairy coffee creamers instead of real cream in their coffee. They're using margarine instead of butter. They're using egg beaters instead of eggs, using oils instead of real eggs. So there is a line here. And there's a religion in Loma Linda, California called the Seventh-day Adventists, who require their members of the religion to take the 90 essential nutrients. They're the 5th longest lived people on earth, but they're vegans except for doing the 90 essential nutrients. They're required to take those. The top 20 longevity cultures, they're the only first world culture on earth that's in the top 20 longevity cultures. They're number 5. 40 years ago, they were like number 12 or 15. They've gradually moved up to number 5, but they take the 90. And one of their big mistakes is they do cook in a lot of oils. They get oxidized oils and trans fats and heterocyclamines and acrylamides, so they do get plaque in the arteries and heart attacks and that sort of stuff. If they give up the oils and go to butter and that kind of stuff, they would not have that problem. But so there is a community that's already been doing this for a long time, for over 100 years, and so we have a track record, so we can speak to that.
Right. So it would be the Ultimate Classic liquid.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, now, and we have another question. Could the book, Let's Play Doctor, be upgraded to give their suggestions with longevity products?
No, that is problematic. The government doesn't like, our government doesn't like that sort of stuff. Your government doesn't like that. And so when you see any book that talks about diseases and nutrition, they're never going to talk about a brand name of a product. If they do talk about that brand name, that book's not on the market for very long and the company's not long in business.
Right.
The government tax them and so forth. And so another mistake that's made is, and I did in the beginning because I was very naive in the beginning, and I'd say, well, this disease is caused by this deficiency, this disease is caused by this deficiency. Everybody would just run to the pharmacy and buy that nutrient. And only about 20% would be successful because they weren't taking all the cofactors in. And when you say what a particular nutrient does, you presume that they're getting all the other 89 essential nutrients. And so I stopped telling people what it was, and I just said, look, get the Healthy Start Pack. Prevent give your body what it needs to manage itself. If you have these diseases, we have the healthy blood sugar pack for blood sugar problems. We don't say diabetes, we say for blood sugar problems. We don't say arthritis, we say take the healthy bone and joint pack for musculoskeletal issues. And that way you're not naming a disease. We used to get warning letters from the government. You can't name a disease in a product. And so we had to kind of talk about categories.
Okay, great. All righty. Well, one more question. A lady with motor neuron or ALS, how could she be helped?
Sure. Oh, absolutely. ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. They need to eat 6 eggs twice a day per 100 pounds of body weight. Soft yolks, soft poached with soft yolks, soft boiled with soft yolks, soft scrambled in butter. They need to take the Healthy Brain and Heart Pack, 1 per 100 pounds of body weight. They need to take what we call synaptive. Okay, and synaptive is the raw materials for your brain cells to make neurotransmitters so the cells can talk to each other. And we also like to throw in the de-stress capsules and the Ultimate Niacin Plus. The de-stress capsules has all the B vitamins except for the niacin. And so you have to add the Ultimate Niacin Plus to that. And also, let's see here. I think that'll cover it. But Lou Gehrig's disease responds extremely well to these sorts of approaches. Huntington's disease, again, all the dementias, MS, multiple sclerosis, I would add the Z-radical, some antioxidants to it because of the plaque in the brain for the MS. And then, of course, Parkinson's disease. They all respond very well. And, of course, they're all really the same disease. It's just by some dumb luck what part of the brain is more severely affected. And so it affects what the symptoms are because each part of the brain does a different job. But it's the same cause. It's the same cause. And I actually have a new CD that goes along with this, with all the research that deals with this question for ALS and MS and Parkinson's disease and so forth. It's called A Stick of Butter a Day Keeps the Doctor Away. A stick of butter a day keeps the doctor away. Not an apple a day, but a stick of butter a day keeps the doctor away. And this is where they came up with the idea to put a quarter of a stick of butter in a cup of coffee.
All right. We've got a lady, her husband's got gout and psoriasis, and he's on Youngevity. He's around 140 kilos. So she just wants the correct dosing for products.
300 pounds. If he's 140 kilos, he's 300 pounds. Yep. Big fella. And, of course, when you have, let's see here. Give me his list of diseases again.
Gout and psoriasis, and also impotence. Yeah.
Okay. Well, gout is caused by a deficiency of the nutrients necessary to help your liver break down purines and uric acid into harmless carbon compounds. And so you want to make the liver happy here. And so a guy that's 300 pounds, he needs 3 Healthy Brain and Heart Packs per month, a full dose of everything of the Healthy Brain and Heart Pack at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Okay? And that'll give him all the raw materials necessary to make his liver happy so it can break down the uric acid. But on the other end, he also needs to get rid of the purine-containing foods which cause the liver to make more uric acid. So that means no organ meats, no brains, no liver, no kidneys, no heart, none of that kind of stuff. No legumes, which means no peanuts, no beans and peas and lentils, and so forth. And absolutely, I said no organ meats and no shellfish, no shrimp, no lobsters, no crabs, no, let's see here, no clams and no oysters, okay? And of course, with the dietary change, the supplement program, gout goes away. They can put on some of our CM cream topically wherever the joint hurts, and the pain will go away in about 10-15 minutes for a couple hours. But after a couple of weeks, you won't need the CM cream for pain relief because they won't have gout anymore.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And last one, what makes for happy kidneys?
When they're talking about kidney dialysis, I have people who come to me, they haven't urinated in 10 years. They're on dialysis 6 days a week. They've been on dialysis for 25 years. The doctor should go to jail there, right? They didn't give him a kidney transplant 25 years earlier. But when you have kidney failure, 99% of the time there's nothing wrong with the kidney. What happens is you get plaque in the arteries that carry the dirty blood into the kidneys. And so when the blood test shows the glomerular filtration rate is down, the creatinine is up, and it says, well, the kidney's not filtering the dirty blood. Well, that's true, but not because there's anything wrong with the kidneys, but because the arteries that carry the dirty blood into the kidneys are plugged. So, healthy brain and heart pack, 1 per 100 pounds of body weight. Get rid of all the bad stuff that causes the plaque in the arteries, fried foods, processed meats, oils, and glutens. And the secret sauce here is going to be the Ultimate Daily Classic tablets. Not the Ultimate Dailies, but the Ultimate Daily Classic tablets. For somebody as big as her husband is, 300 pounds, or if that's the guy, he would need all of those a day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Would be 3 bottles a month of the Ultimate Daily Classic tablets. And they will support healthy blood pressure, but they also support healthy blood flow through the blocked arteries. And of course, their responsibility is to get rid of all the bad stuff so they don't keep damaging the arteries once the diet change cleans it up.
Great. That's fantastic. And what about for the low libido? I think I've heard you say more eggs, more good cholesterol.
Yeah, I need about 18 eggs a day. 18, 6 and 6 with each meal. Also needs what we call Zeratest. Zeratest is a great product. It gives the testicles what it needs to convert the cholesterol into testosterone. And it wouldn't hurt for this guy to lose some weight, so we have what we call the Rev. It's a dropper bottle, Rev, R-E-V. I'd have him get 2 bottles of Rev, put a dropper full, not a drop, but a dropper full, under his tongue 30 minutes for each meal, and a second dropper full under his tongue 15 minutes for each meal. And he'll begin to lose half a pound to 2 pounds a day. So we get people who are 500 pounds, 600 pounds, 620 pounds. They'll lose 2 pounds a day. So in 6-7 months' time, they're down to where they need to be, 150 pounds. And they're taking their cholesterol, eating their butter, their coffee, they're eating their eggs. And guess what? They make the testosterone, and everything happens.
Great. Okay. We've got some nice messages popping up, Dr. Wallach. One girl saying, we would like to say thank you personally for changing our lives, and we listen to you daily. We are so blessed you've entered our lives. So we might, yeah.
Well, we do a lot of international shows, coast to coast, in George Norrie, with Clyde Lewis. We do, of course, Dead Doctors Don't Lie. We have Let's Play Doctor. So always glad to have our Aussie buddies here, our Blakes and our Blokes. And
So can we ask you, is it possible to have you back on a regular basis on Zoom webinar?
We can do this. Oh yeah, we can do this electronically on a regular basis. Ken will be able to set that up. I'll be happy and honored to do that. And then of course I like to go there twice a year and get belly to belly and shake hands and hug all you folks and talk to people face to face. Then we can go the other direction, do those events back to the United States or to New Zealand and so forth. So we include as many as possible. But yeah, let's do it. Ken's shaking his head yes. Let's make it happen.
Okay, all right. So we'll just line it up with Ken. And Dr. Wallach, it looks like we've got 58 on the webinar, but we have big groups gathered around all of these people here. So we've potentially got hundreds listening to you here today. And we just want to thank you for your time. And we just so value the way you've changed our lives and helping us to change other lives.
Well, thank you so much. I cannot thank you enough for leveraging our time, for taking this good news to the Pacific, including Australia and New Zealand. And we're so excited to be working with you again. And so let's do it more often, and let's save the world.
Okay, I might just unmute everyone and let everyone say a big goodbye and thank you, and then we'll sign off. Thank you so much.